Hey, everybody, this is Kurt Mahler with a good friend here, Stephen Kuhn over here. Hey, you've heard me talk about some of my friends from this really well-known place that I like to talk about and brag about a bunch. I'm trying to look for my gear, baby bathwater. You're going to hear me talk about baby bathwater a lot because honestly, some of the smartest, kindest, gentlest, most giving people that I have ever met in my entire life. There's about 110 of us that gather together as a family. Now, Stephen's one of these individuals that kind of off in the corner, I hear these stories, something about working in the military, has some very unique military stories, special ops, mafia, royals. Wait a minute. This doesn't even go on to Mick Jagger bodyguard, having some other businesses, being homeless, just even less than, 2007, 2008, we were just talking about. And literally, I kind of sit off to the side and I'm meeting all these other really smart people. I hear people, Stephen, tell some of these stories and even some of the other adventures that you go on a yearly basis that you help people, take people on trips on. And I'm like, I have to get to know Stephen more. Well, what ends up happening is because having this summit, essentially what I want to do is surround myself with really smart entrepreneurs, ask them a bunch of questions selfishly, but also be able to show this to everyone else as well too. So honestly, this is going to be the longest conversation that Stephen and I have ever had together. And we're going to record it for the very first time. And you actually reached out and you're like, hey, could I possibly say, can I also jump onto the summit? And I'm like, oh my goodness, yes, I've wanted to get to know you. I want to hear some of your stories. People who are going to be listening to this unequivocally are going to want to hear your stories. So Stephen, wow. First of all, welcome. And I'm serious. I'm super excited to get started on this one.
Me too. We've always missed each other on the island. It's crazy trying to find that time, but it's just so many people there. So it's so interesting. You don't want to cut anybody off. You're just you're engulfed in this whole conversation. It's like an endless conversation for 4 days. Incredible.
Yeah. Over and over and over. And I hardly ever sleep there whatsoever. Yeah. My brain's just spinning and it's just because I want to connect with someone else. It's not because I've been drinking all day long. It's just
of course not.
These conversations are great. And so are the drinks. The drinks are good as well too. So I'm going to jump back, if you don't mind, for just a minute, because I just kind of want to frame character, kind of overall. Do you mind talking about your military career in a minute and kind of your escalation in serving? You did a lot of serving for us, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I did about 8 years in the U.S. Army. Most of the time, I was stationed in Europe, which is where I then got out and stayed. But I also went to Iraq, and in Iraq, I had two key moments that changed my life forever. We can talk about later if you want. And that sort of set me on the journey that I'm on today, that I'm still on today. But for the most part in the military, it took me from being a guy with zero self-confidence. I was the biggest guy in my class. I played football, but I was the slowest, doofus, dorkiest guy that lost every game. Like 100%. Coach is like, whatever you do not run after the kicker. I ran after the kicker. He runs around me, makes a touchdown. Wins the game, right? It's like, that was me. I was doofus, right? So I went in the military and said, I'm leaving all that behind. Joined the military when they were cutting my hair off with the it was 1986, so I had a mullet, but it was like a disco mullet, so it wasn't that bad. And they were cutting it off, and I said, this is the new me. And I stayed that way, stellar soldier, hardcore, always, at the front, doing everything I did until I went to war. And then in war, I said, what the hell? This is nothing like they trained us like it would be. And that changed me forever. So that was my military experience. And then I got out and then stayed in Europe, as I said.
So quick question. This is a passion of mine that I know that you've jumped into just a little bit more. And I'm very, very interested in this. There's a lot of friends that I've had who are in the military. And when they make that transition out, it's, hey, am I going to be a lifer? I know there's all these speeches that go on internally. I'm just curious because I know there's other people who are listening too, just looking for options at this point. What made you decide to get out, and what was the jump that you made? Did you go into employment next? Did you consulting? How did you bridge that gap to get out?
Well, I was an NCO, so a non-commissioned officer sergeant, right? So there weren't too many options, and I was on tanks, so there were zero options in the outside world. So you had to say I'm a leader. Well, what you learn to lead in the military is great for structures. You have like people, procedures, and structures. That's easy. Like, you have a structure, you have the people, and you put them there, and you give them the way to do it, and you're done. But in the outside world, it's all soft skills, right? And so we didn't have those soft skills. I got out and I was, first of all, why did I get out? I got out because I realized that I could no longer be the soldier that I knew I had to be to serve in the military. And I couldn't be that soldier because of what I experienced in the war with civilians, with little girls and boys and things that happened in war that shouldn't have happened. And I just said, I can't be who I have to be the best soldier that I should be if I'm serving. So that's why I got out. And why I stayed in Europe is because I said, I'm not ready to go home yet, back to America. I still have to prove to myself that I'm a go-getter and that I can make it happen. And when I got out, I obviously, like I said, I didn't have much to do. I wasn't married. I wasn't staying here for a girl or anything. So what do you do when you get out of the military? You go in the door of a club, doorman. And that's where I got into into the realm of the underground, right? So mafia. Yeah. And in Berlin, Germany, it's the Arabs on one side, the Arab family on one side, and on the other side of the city, which is East and West, it used to be. On the other side of the city, it's then the East Germans, sort of right-winger East Germans, if you know what I mean. So I got mixed up with these guys because I was in that field, but I wasn't affiliated with any of them. So they would always try to get me to affiliate myself with them. And it was just fight after fight after fight after fight. So I was literally fighting for my life. And I got a really good reputation there because I never lost, I guess you could say, and they never got me to relinquish my let's say my independence. And what that led to was later down the road when things happened in the city and there was a big problems. Everyone respected my independence, my neutrality. I was like Switzerland in the doorman scene. There's actually a movie that was being written about it that when 2008 when everything crashed they stopped. But yeah, so and then I got out and stayed and in Europe and tried to just build a life, And one thing I knew, and I learned it in the Army, was that, okay, so I spoke a little German in the Army, and every time there was a local, the mayor of a local city or Germans were on board or engineers, they needed someone to translate, they'd send me because I spoke a little German. And I learned the German on the border when I was looking over across the East German border. And I realized, okay, I made myself special because I was the only American that spoke German. Well, now, in the civilian world, what can I do to be special, right? So I studied German privately every single day until I got fluent to the point where you could hardly even tell I'm an American. So it was really, really good German. And I used that, then I started selling insurance. And I knew that no matter what I do, if I'm on a door, I had 3 jobs at once. Door at night from 7 p.m. till 2 in the morning, airport from 4 until 10, and insurance from 12 until 6. Yeah, so I did those 3 jobs.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And you slept half an hour here and there, an hour?
Yeah, in between. Yeah. I drive to the airport and sleep in the air and sleep in the car and stuff. Yeah, it was pretty freaky. Anyway, so the one thing I knew is that if I treat everybody in front of me better than they've ever been treated anywhere before, and I elevate them and just give value, whatever that was at the time. It wasn't those words value, but I knew that I had to give more than everybody else. So whether I was a doorman, whether I was a security guard, bodyguard, working as insurance, everyone's like, that guy's different. There's something different about him. And everyone remembered me. I remember I met Steven Tyler in the gym. We had gyms. I was in gyms too, so we had 87 clubs in 9 countries. And later, Steven Tyler came in with his Navy SEAL bodyguard or whoever he was, trainer, and they wanted to use the training room just to do some Navy SEAL stuff. And I talked to him for like 2 minutes. But I said, look, my place is your place. Have at it. Absolutely stunning. And what I always do is I talk to them face to face. I meet them where they are, and I'm not like, oh God, And you always use your full name, just as a tip, full name, Steven Tyler, not Mr. Tyler, not superstar, not Mr. President, nothing. Like if you meet, when I met Bill Clinton, I meant, hey, I'm William Jefferson Clinton. How are you doing? So you use your whole name, so that breaks down any ice of who is this guy. Anyway, 2 years later, I'm walking down the street in Berlin. I hear this, hey, Steve. And it was Steven Tyler. Like, come over and have a drink. He was sitting in a cafe. I was like, I can blow my mind. But I got used to that, right? So that was my journey from then on. It was like, okay, exciting shit all day long, every day.
So one of the things is we've talked about this. There's an individual that I interviewed yesterday, Miles Beckler, and it kind of depends on when people watch the replay. One of the interesting things with Miles is Miles has built a YouTube channel over the last 3 years. And he's like, I really just give a lot of value. And people are like, well, what does that mean? He's like, well, something that I'm like trying to fix, I may record 3 or 4 videos on it. At the end of it, I may put an affiliate link, but I'm not finding something to sell and putting an affiliate link on. It's like, oh, I had a problem where I busted my phone. I want to figure out how to have the best phone case and kind of figure that whole thing out.
Right.
So one of the interesting, and I'm going to talk to a mutual friend, Brad Costanza, that kind of works in the same way. He'll run into billionaires and literally listen to their problems and say, you know what, I got you. And then he'll start to figure the whole thing out.
Yep.
Now, again, I mentioned just in the intro, when we were talking about this in the pre-interview, you had said, worked with the Royals, you worked as a bodyguard. So there has to be able in a way to build that trust. And you had talked about adding value. So I kind of think about the crazy economy now. There's lots of different areas to add value. Didn't sound like you had a whole lot of money and options at the time, so you needed to add value with some people. Can you help bridge that gap? When you say add value, you meet a Royal, you start cleaning their bathroom. Like, how do you add value to start to escalate to get these really interesting jobs?
Yeah, well, first of all, you got to meet them where they're at. That's the main thing. You got to meet them where they're at. But if you step back a little bit first, you have to be comfortable in your own skin and in any realm of life. And to be able to do that, you have to know who you are for real. And I don't mean like, go on a spiritual journey, that kind of stuff. We do that too, but it's not just that. It's the entire encompassing thing. If I could just give an example. So a litmus test that we use for our book. I have a partner, Lane Balone. We wrote a book called Unleash Your Humble Alpha. And this is all about what we're talking about here. How do you own your presence in life and become the epic leader that's already inside of you? And we don't mean leader, of men. We mean leader of your own life, impacting your own journey, creating radiant value for the world around you in your life enterprise. So finding your identity, really crystallize your purpose. And most people, they don't live their purpose, unfortunately. And I mean most do not live their purpose because they're not really sure who they are. They're always answering of, okay, if I answer this question, boss wants to hear this, wife wants to hear that.
Absolutely.
So the litmus test is this. If your partner is a fly in the wall in your office, would she recognize you or he recognize you? Would they? But even more so, if an employee was a fly on the wall in your home, would you be embarrassed? And there's a lot of leaders that have a problem with that. Yeah. There's ones that I've worked with that hide behind a title completely and positively and have absolutely no personality. So once you own your presence, you can literally walk up to anybody. And the biggest tip I can give for anybody who wants something from somebody, don't worry about it. Just talk to them, add value, figure out what it is. Or, hey, how you doing, William Jefferson Clinton? How you enjoying Berlin? He was in Berlin. Hey, William Jefferson Clinton, how you doing? Stephen Kuhn. Hey, nice to meet you, Stephen. How you doing? How you enjoying Berlin? I'm loving it. Have you been to so just have a conversation, a real conversation with someone like you would anyone else, but no expectation. Key is no expectation. You can only control the intention. You can't control the outcome. If you try to control the outcome, they're going to feel it. It'll feel disingenuous. It'll feel quirky. And they're going to say, okay, this person wants something. He's not being honest. So simply knowing one intention is to create value. Forget about the expectations. No cookie cutter solutions, no preconceived notions. Just add value. We call that creating space. You create space around you and them with no expectations. They can step into it. It creates then that third entity called what? The mastermind, as everybody knows.
That's what I want to talk about. Let's talk about creating that space for a little bit. So a lot of people, when they meet someone well-known, or I'm trying to label this a different way, but they want to meet somebody because they want something, right? That doesn't necessarily mean it's selfish, but they want to accomplish something to whatever. And a lot of times what I see is people walk up, they don't use a full name, just like you mentioned before. The other thing is they just start to ramble. Hey, let me tell you about my sister's cousins, aunts, uncle. What I've really found is it really comes down to asking some really good questions. So I would love to hear, how do you ask some good questions to kind of open up that space when you're trying to meet the right people and kind of move up?
Well, this is where you got to tie into your intuition, because your intuition is already telling you right when you're walking up there. If you feel a little nervous and stuff, you need to let that go before you walk up there and just listen to what your solar plexus is saying. That's basically your intuition. It's hard to say what exactly to say, but I know this: when you're present, you're comfortable in your skin and you own your presence. Nothing makes you nervous or worries of you. And if you walk up to somebody, what would you say when you walk up to me? Why would it be different than when you walk up to them? That's how you got to think, right? So if you walk up to a buddy, you might know him. Hey, how's it going? Are you enjoying the whatever? Have you been to the cafe yet? Let's go grab a drink or whatever. I would do that to people. I would do it to anybody. Hey, have you had a drink yet? Let's go grab a drink. And they'd be like, okay. It would be so shocked that some person they don't know would ask them that if you use their full name and you go up there without an expectation. If they say no, you say, okay, good. I'll bring one to you. You ready? Let's go. What are you drinking? Just whatever. Just something like that. It's got to be genuine, though. No compliments and none of that ass kissing and looking up to them and that kind of stuff and kind of take a selfie. It just makes it like you're a fan then, right? Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with being a fan, but if you want to work with these people, you got to meet them where they are. You cannot be over or under. You got to meet them where they are. Otherwise, they'll have a different, subconsciously, of course, will have a different space to put you in. So, when there's no one question to ask. Just don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. because you control the intention. So make that intention worth gold, and the outcome will be better than you can ever expect it anyway.
I love that. So I'm going to jump tracks just a little bit. I'm just really curious. So as I mentioned before in the pre-interview, there's 3 different people that are watching this, right? There are people who are just going to binge watch the entire thing. Totally cool. There are also some people that this really all comes down to mindset, some marketing. I want to make sure that they have a more well-rounded belt strategy. And there's some experts that'll be on here as well being like, man, I would like to dive a little bit deeper with Steven as well. Would you mind for just a minute talking about your book? That you
Yeah, for sure. Well, the book is good.
And how the whole thing's being funded with a mutual fund of, I shouldn't say funded, but how you're helping raise money with a mutual friend of ours. I'd love it if you'd just spend a minute talking about that.
Indeed. Well, the book is called Unleash Your Humble Alpha, and it's written together with my business partner, Lane Balone, who's a Special Forces veteran as well. And he and I combed through our lives. So I've always been a thinker. So when I was on TV, I wrote a book in Germany. It was a bestseller. It came out the day the war started in 2003 in Iraq. But it was from the first war. So it was my experience, came out the first day. And they put me on TV in Germany in front of like 25 million people, live show. And they asked me a question. They said, Mr. Kuhn, are you against this war? And I thought, you know how the thoughts go, right? I was thinking, okay, what do they want to hear? It's Germany. Yeah. They're not really for the war, but I'm actually an American, but I'm living here. You know, all these questions you're asking. And I said, no, wait a second. If I'm not honest to who I am right now, I'll never be honest to myself. Boom. And that broke down a wall inside of me that said, as long as my message comes from a place of purity and integrity, it doesn't matter what other people think because I can't control them anyway, right? So that's how I started to live, and that's how I started to communicate. And this is how we broke down our entire life, and we said, what do we call that? How did we get from point A to point B, to the highs, to the lows, and what are the acronyms? So we have 5 proprietary models that we use in the book to take you from your identity, your purpose, to certainty. And certainty is really simple. Certainty allows you to let go of how you're going to do something. You don't need to micromanage that, because when you're certain and you're following your purpose, which amplifies your identity, you're going in the right direction anyway, because you're coming from a place of what we call HIT. You probably heard someone call me the Hitman before. And HIT stands for honesty, integrity, and transparency. Honesty with yourself and why you do what you do. The transparency is how you carry that honesty into the world. And the byproduct is, of course, integrity. So the whole book is being crowdfunded. So we have our own crowdfunding campaign. Many of you watching will understand WordPress crowdfunding campaign. We chose that over the other crowdfunding campaign because of the commissions and all that kind of stuff, because we wanted to give the money to charity. So 100% of the net proceeds goes to generosityfeeds.org from Ron Klabunda and his wife, Stephanie. And we're feeding kids. So every book sold, sells or feeds 3 kids. Freaking amazing. And it just feels good to be able to tell our basically life story, help people come from identity to purpose to certainty, and at the same time feed kids. It's just amazing. And it's, of course, humblealphabook.com is the website.
Perfect. So question for you, sir.
Yep.
Depends when people watch this. In 2020, times are a little interesting. I know I'm here in Austin, Texas. Downtown, they've boarded up a bunch of stuff downtown. I know you're in Hungary, and you started showing me pictures of other friends from around the world, what they're seeing as well, too. Would you mind to dive back into that HIT acronym for just a minute on how people could use that right now? Is either you can sit there in fear and just sit on Facebook all day long and be worried. You can start taking action of kind of starting to think about, what can I do next? Can you speak to that just for a little bit, if you don't mind?
Sure. I think the biggest enemy is fear, and the second biggest enemy is our mind diving deep into that fear. So what I like to do is I like to keep my mind productive. So I'll do things that I can, that I can learn or grow. I help my kids learn. But what I really like to do is talk to other business owners and help them transform. Okay, You're here now. You're scared. I get it. What's your USP? Who's your avatar? What's your offer? How can we switch this so it's actually adaptive right now? So the quickest way to get out of a funk is to help somebody. For me, that's just a no-go. I mean, it's like, there's nothing else that I can do to make me feel better than helping somebody succeed. Honest to God, it's just, and I think, you do the same thing. Yeah. People are like, oh, Jesus, man, thank you so much, Kurt. Wow. And you're just like, dude,
That's why we're doing, that's why we're doing the summit, right? I mean,
exactly.
People can be like, I never even knew who Steven was. He said this one thing, then I read his book, and then all of a sudden I got married. Now I got this house, and I got, oh my goodness, like that's the best compliment I could ever here, and you know that it happens, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
It
it
takes
happens
that
all the time.
one moment for someone to pay attention. That's what I'm telling people now. Please pay attention. So sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just get excited
No,
when you say
no, it's exciting, and it really does get exciting. So I have a slew of people that I talk to almost every day, all the way through the week. I'm usually I see. You see, I live in a small village in Hungary. 2,000 people live here, so it's a bit out on its own. And I have a wife and 2 kids, so I'm pretty busy during the day when I talk to people in America, or actually middle of the day to the late night.
Yeah.
And I talk to people in America most of the time. I have some Austrian and German clients and stuff, and they're either current, past, or future clients. I'm not really touchy about that. It's like, if you know me and you need advice, let's find something to create out of what you have. That's what I do. That's what I do best. That's my magic talent, I guess you could say. But for people out there who are scared, it's fear. In the book that I love is A Happy Pocket Full of Money. He says fear stands for now I forgot what it was, but
false events appearing real.
there we go. Yeah, false evidence appearing real. There we go. You can edit that out. False evidence appearing real, and it is, because if you think about it, when you react to something, let's say this right here, you're not reacting to what's happening. You're reacting to your thoughts about what you think might happen. So if you can realize, well, actually, they're just thoughts, and I can change them anytime I want. Change the thoughts. Change the thoughts to something positive, building up. And I believe wholly and fully that those people out there, like Ron Lynch, who did IntelliHelp, right? Who started IntelliHelp. People like that, and the group of people that joined him, I think you and I included. We're building a foundation of hope, of love, of care, of giving, of just pure integrity when it comes to giving and caring for real. You saw Ron's video; he was in tears.
Yeah,
I believe that's what's going to create a foundation for the coming, whatever happens, whatever is going to happen, lockdown, military, whatever, it doesn't matter, because one, we're still going to be here, right? And two, we still got to live, right? So let's do it the way that we want to do it, with a foundation of love, hope, care, integrity, and giving. And I believe wholly and fully that that's creating a whole new paradigm.
Yeah, I think
a whole new paradigm.
I think what a lot of people forget is there are a lot of people scared. Completely understand. I say this in lots of the different interviews. The frontal cortex of your brain will actually shut down, and your logic starts to go away when you are completely scared. And all of a sudden, you start running around. So I tell people, shut off the news. But here's the other thing. There's a lot of opportunity here. And I'm not saying take opportunity to sell these masks on Facebook or anything like that. Just remember, a lot of these stores that, unfortunately, like these restaurants that have to shut down, these are entrepreneurs. They're resilient. They're going to be doing something. We're still, like you said, we're still living. We're still going to be doing commerce. We're still going to be buying books. We're still going to be buying groceries. We're still going to be buying a lot of the other things. And it's really just kind of shifting that mindset just a little bit more that, hey, either I can feel sorry for myself. I tell everybody, read the best management book out there, 88 pages long, Who Moved My Cheese?
Yep.
You can either sit there and complain that it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same. It's going to be the same. Stephen and I were talking about this before the interview. The world will never be the same after this. The economies are going to be crazy. This isn't like a weekend vacation that we all go back. And once you recognize that it's time for change, that's really where you can make a really big difference. So I am curious, Stephen, like, what are some of the things that you're spending your time on right now as you're with your family? What are you studying? That's what you mentioned before. Your head's down. What are you studying? What are you looking at? What's kind of your horizon for 2020 that you're diving into?
Well, the book is really big right now, and we have a program attached to that book called the Humble Alpha Leader Program, and it's an online, of course. It was going to be offline partially, but now it's all online. That's the first adaptation we made within the first week of this all happening.
Yeah.
And I think we're building that out, trying to figure out how we can now, instead of just doing classic marketing, work with individuals directly through daily Facebook Lives, sort of getting people involved, and then that organically turning over to, let's say, more book sales, more giving to the children, feeding the children, and then going into the Humble Alpha Leader Program.
Have you been putting people into a Facebook group? Just curious.
Not for this book, not yet. We're thinking about it, but I have a Facebook group of veterans. There's 14,000 veterans called the Vetpreneur Tribe, and we worked on that. But yeah, I know you're going to tell me the Facebook group.
One of the things that you may consider is right now is just like we're doing the summit is really people really rely on the community, especially since we're all kind of home and everything else. Well, Facebook for the last year has been spending a lot of money in commercials for Facebook groups. So their propaganda is really high on it. Now, Facebook loves groups and they hate groups. They love groups because it aligns people where they say, Zuckerberg said this, is it takes a conversation from town hall and it takes it into someone's living room. Now, I say this very directly just because I'm direct and starts a little controversy. There are some idiots out there that believe that the earth is flat, and they have for many years. Now, what happens is there are a lot of idiots that get together with lots of other idiots inside of a Facebook group. This is why Facebook is scared, because people align their ideology with, hey, I'm surrounded by 3,000 other people that believe that it's flat, so it must be true. So on the other side, it can really be used for good. Like one of the things that I do is for the belt program is there's really, like I mentioned before, there's 3 different types of people: beginners who are going to binge watch. So people join my free group and they can watch 20 hours of free training, and it starts to change their ideology, their belief system. They start to implement some stuff. But a lot of people just aren't ready for a $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 program yet. And essentially what ends up happening is people start speaking my language. They start talking the talk. They become great advocates. And a small percentage do end up upgrading and they become part of the family. And I'll say it because we talked about this earlier. It all starts with leading with service. And once people are inside of that group with some free training, some Facebooks, oh my goodness, it just requires almost 80% of all of these interviews from my marketing friends is boiled down to this over the last 10 years. Lots of clicks, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, as many emails as possible. Now, as many great conversations that we can possibly have on a personal basis. And that's where we're seeing the biggest impact versus tens of thousands of clicks. So I love what you do. I love your stories.
Thanks. Well, it's funny because I only went online 2 years ago. I was an offline consultant for 20 years, and I just traveled around the world 4 days a week, nine countries a month. And I decided I'm done with that. I'm done, just so done with travel because I have a wife and 2 small kids. And I just said, what am I going to do now? So I looked for, since I'm a veteran, looked for a veteran group on Facebook, had 2,000 people in it, went in there and did a live every single day. Absolutely. Just did a live and added, and I gave complete 100% solutions. Didn't have a program, a group, but nothing. And I made $100,000 in 3 months just from people saying, hey, I heard what you said. Can you do it for me? Can you help me do it for my business? And that's how I started my business, my online business. So I made $100,000 in 3 months, and then I flipped it over and did groups and, the coaching programs and all that kind of stuff. And it just like spiraled a little bit out of control. And then I brought it back in a little bit and started doing the one-on-one consulting, because that's where I really, really thrive. So we do small group consulting with the Humble Alpha Leader Program, because the Leader Program takes you first to you, identity, purpose, and certainty. Then it goes down to your teams as well. So you learn how to teach your teams how to do this. And then you learn how to implement change that's positive in your teams. And then we talk about collaborations. And then that's where I get into the immediate impact revenue programs we have. We have the emergency business triage that we can take care of, like in situations like this. I put a video out just recently about 16 things you can do right now to save your business, It's incredible. And these are all the things we bring across. So that's what I'm working on. Right. I'm trying to get this full palette of things so people can walk in and go, well, yeah, this is like, because I'm not an online guy. I never was. I mean, I can do online stuff, but I don't know all the stuff that not even close, So I just try to stick to my core sort of knowledge, and Lane helps on his core knowledge. And then we have a couple other team members that help as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to 2020. I think for everybody else out there who's worried and wondering what to do, they just need to reach out to people, man. People are helping like crazy now. Everybody's helping. If there's someone out there, a mentor that you always wanted to have, or someone you always wanted to talk to, write them, talk to them, ask them. I promise you, they're going to help you. I promise you.
It's interesting because I just had somebody write me, and they had purchased our belt program. So essentially there's 2 groups. They got the free group, and then I call it the family, the premium group. And it's interesting because someone in this premium group, they said, Kurt, I lost a couple of clients, and I've been saving up for your program, and man, times are really bleak. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? And a lot of times they just don't realize that literally putting on the summit means there's going to be 40 new experts. And when I say experts, it's really surrounding yourself with a bunch of other people who have gone like this through life, so you can hear all of their different stories. Well, thousands of people are going to be coming into our free group, listening to experts. And just like I messaged this other person, and I'm like, if you just get inside of our free group, you've already taken the training answer questions, add some value,
Yeah.
talk about some of your favorite parts that you're implementing now, because it's just exactly what you said in the veterans group. You said you got into a veterans group where there's 2,000 people. You said that you're doing Facebook Lives on a regular basis, and all of a sudden people started raising their hand, and you made $100,000 in 3 months.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to me when people are like, man, Kurt, I don't know what to do. And it's like, there's so many people getting involved in these groups who raise their hand. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
The niche, whatever, wherever you're from. It was so key because I was veteran. I could speak their language, have immediate trust. People forget about that, the niche or the avatar. You can't just speak generally. And I took that group and I grew it and I took it over because the guy said, everyone thinks you own it. Why don't you just take it over? So I did. And then now it's to 14,500 veteran entrepreneurs, and it's still live. We have swag. We do in-person things. And it's really, really powerful. Got some generals in there, all kinds of stuff, really, really powerful stuff. And that all came from me just doing lives because I had no idea what else to do. But adding value again, and this is where the trick comes in, is it's not a trick. So when I add value on Facebook, I give 100% solution. I don't, hey, if you want the other 3 answers and click here, full 100% solutions. Why? Because they say the 20-80 rule, 20% will take, 20% will take action. It's not true. 20% will pay attention. Maybe 6 will take action, 6%. Then the stragglers in between will call you and say, look, I saw what you said. Sounds good. I'd love to do it, but I don't want to do it myself. Can you do it for me? And then they're going to pay you for it. Seriously, it's simple as that. And it's not a program it isn't a program that we have. It's actually when I'm talking about my consulting back then, it was me just doing one-on-ones with businesses, and my price was a little bit higher than everyone else's because I'm not an online coach. I'm an actual real business consultant, implementation and change and all that kind of stuff. So so I just put my price like it always was, and it was tough getting through. But then, of course, exposure. Once you find a niche that you're in and you start doing lives, you got to get exposure. Get on podcasts. Things like I volunteered for you because I need exposure too. I love getting out there with new groups of people. I mean, I've always heard about your big event. Always heard about it. Never been there, never been invited, never invited to speak. I spoke all over, World Affiliate Summits and Arab Affiliate Summits, all these kind of things, but I've never been there. And I'm like, man, and then you said, I was like, me. You see, and you're like, and this is a perfect example. You're like, hell yeah, I'd love to have you. I was like, really? I didn't even know that you knew that about me,
Absolutely.
That's what I mean. If you don't ask, you don't know, man. Yeah. You have to ask everybody around you. Yeah.
It's funny. Like so for my last 10 years online is I've always run paid traffic, but I've run a lot of the paid traffic for a lot of who's who. I don't do affiliate launches. I don't call friends for favors just because whatever, like I just never really done that before. So when I kind of saw that the economy was kind of taking a dump and all my friends were not traveling, everyone else was sitting at home, I just figured I'd call a bunch of friends, and the greatest thing has started to happen. So actually a couple of different things happened. One is no one said no. So my girlfriend is a little sequestered in the other room. She's like, come on, I've heard you talk every day, all day, multiple times a day. People have sent me books. Brian Kurtz, he sent me a book. Brian calls me and says, Brian, can I please, or he says, Kurt, can I please be on your call? And I'm like, hey, this is great. So now my phone's ringing off the hook from speakers that I've always wanted to ask a bunch of questions to get you know more. I want other people to be able to hear this as well. So essentially people, so at the end of the day, remember, if you like these recordings, I don't sell these recordings for $97 or anything like that. I want to make it as a more well-rounded belt strategy. So if you do upgrade to the belt, you get all of these recordings, all these videos that are all part of bonuses just to help make it well-rounded. So as we round this thing out, Stephen, any advice or insight that you have for people? Like I said, I think what I know that you can really help on is a lot of people who think the world is crap, this sucks, I don't know if I'm ever going to get my job back in 3-6 months. I'm just going to sit here, and you can either take action and start moving on stuff or just sitting here. Can you talk to that for just a minute to kind of help close this thing out?
Yeah. People call me every day about that. And I had those thoughts in the beginning too. Okay, here we go. Another change. As you know, we crashed and burned at the .com boom and crashed and burned in 2007 and 2008, where I actually ended up being homeless. So I know a little bit about, worry. And when I let go the most was when I was homeless. I let go in the street. I said, you know what? If this is where I am, this is where I am. Let me just deal with it. I'm here now. I can't change what happened. The only thing I do is change what's in the future. And I can only change that now. So that attitude of the past is always gone and tomorrow is always a day away. So you always got to work in the now, live in the now, create in the now. And when we talk about what's going to happen now is competition is going to get fierce. People are going to start looking at other people because they think there's less work. They think I have to compete. And competition is actually a scarcity mindset when it's not in sports. So when it's in business and things like that, it's sort of a scarcity mindset. You want to be a creator, right? You want to go in and create what you're making. You want to create an experience. You want to create value for other people, not compete against what they're doing and see if I can do it differently. You know, okay, he's stealing my clients, that kind of stuff. Forget about that. Create, give free value. Just give it out there. And I know a lot of people are sitting in their houses and they're like, Jesus, I'm going crazy. You know, find something to learn that you've always wanted to learn. Dig deep in something that you want to learn to sell online. Maybe you want to do an Amazon course or something. You know, there's plenty of those out there, right? You know, and you can just find something that interests you and learn. But you got to force yourself to do it. You have to. You have to force routines as well, because your routine's completely different now. Like I get up, it was hard. You know, I get up, hang out with my kids for a little bit, then I do my fitness, which I hate doing fitness at home. I love going to the gym. So I do my fitness at home. I take a shower and I get to work, all in my house. And if you don't have a routine, you're not going to do what you think you wanted to do. And that's literally key to being productive, is you have to have a routine that has an output, that has an end game. I mean, you have to have that every single day, period. And it's also going to give you things to look forward to. And you're going to accomplish. If you work from a checklist, then you're going to accomplish things every day. Like today, I'm going to make 10 phone calls. I'm going to do this, that. Boom, I'm done. Awesome. I mean, I have mine right here. I can open it up for you right now. And I'm 53 years old next month, and I'm still using lists.
Yeah, one of my favorite things I like to tell people is this cheesy saying, no one ever does anything consistently ever, and that's your advantage. You don't have to be smarter. You don't have to be better. Just consistently every single day. If it's a 10 phone calls, 10 phone calls. If it's a video, just consistently, you will outperform everyone else. You don't have to be smarter. You have to be better looking. Like literally just don't stop. That's it. Just do not.
Yeah. And and that passion has to be there, that belief in the belief in what you're capable of. I mean, really, once you get, if you guys can grab the book, Unleash Your Humble Alpha, honest to God, it's more timely than ever. I mean, it couldn't be a better time for our book. We just don't have the big marketing games. We don't have a publisher and all that kind of stuff. But it's so key right now, because you're sitting at home going, who the hell am I? I just spent 25 years working at company XYZ and I freaking hated that job. And here I sit. I was talking to an oil guy today, oil and gas guy. They closed one of the plants, and 2 miles down the road was another plant. They let go 300 guys. And they said, we can either let you go or you can go to the other plant who we're ramping up. One guy said, yeah, we'll go. The other one said, no, we'd rather get fired. Can you imagine? 299 people walked away from a job when they had the chance. It's like, It's an excuse not to do what I hate. And so you're sitting at home going, man, who am I? What am I here for? I need a new purpose, because their purpose was the job, right? You know, It's not anymore, brother. That job doesn't exist. And that person that you thought you were at that job doesn't exist either. Who are you really? Who are you? And once you find out your identity, your purpose is going to crystallize right in front of you. You're going to be like, oh my God, I know exactly what I'm doing now. And guess what? That creates that certainty, and that certainty will bring you to the motherland, I guess you could say.
So speaking of this, to wrap the whole thing up, what I like to be able to extend to you, we've actually helped 4 or 5 people hit the New York Times bestseller list, and all by Facebook Lives and by running ads. So if you're doing Facebook Lives, we've helped somebody, Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson's one of my favorite case studies, where she did 4 Facebook Lives, and we invested some money behind the Facebook Lives, but we can actually get people to watch like a good 20, 30 minutes. I'm happy to spend some time with you later on this, but 20, 30 minutes, you just go in, do your thing, add value, but like an infomercial every 7 to 10 minutes, it is kind of like I did a call to action here. By the way, if you'd like to grab the book, all you have to do is just grab this right over here. And essentially what ends up happening is people will either watch you for 30 minutes. That could be $1. They could click back to your site after watching you for 30 minutes. But essentially here are the actual raw numbers, because I've done this a lot. For instance, this book right here, Retargeting Recipes. I'm a part of Retargeting Recipes. A lot of people know this. I'll give you the book for free if you just let me know, and I'll send you the link. But essentially, books like this, where they do the free, where people do the free plus shipping offer, that you see out there,
right?
It typically costs $60 to $80 to sell a book. So if shipping and handling is $10, it's going to cost you $80 to sell the book. However, I've sold over 250 of these because I did a half-an-hour interview like this with the author Justin Brooke. And once people watch this and I retarget people to buy the book, it's now $15, not $80. and I've sold 250 of those, and I can show you how to sell a couple thousand of those, and I'd be happy to help.
Let's do it, brother.
Yeah. You said you
Sounds
do
awesome.
Facebook Lives. I show you how to add $1 or $2 a day, and you take care of everything else.
I do a live every morning. It's called the Daily Purge.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm almost at 300 episodes. No, actually almost at 400 episodes now. I hit the year like a month ago, and that's literally just me getting up and then going, what's in my brain? And I just dump it.
Absolutely.
You know? So
great.
I have a blast doing those things.
This has been awesome. I really appreciate it. So I was going to say, hey, I can't wait to see you on the mountain. So we're not going to the mountain. And then I was going to say, hey, can't wait to see you in Italy, but I'm not going to Italy. Then I cancel Italy. Yep. So we will see. We have to do this some other time.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for getting it. I really do. I really appreciate getting to know you just a little bit more.
Yeah, I can't wait to hook up. Yeah, I can't wait to hook up and meet in person, talk about that, and, the business side as well. But I heard so many good things about you and what you do, but I never got into that. I wasn't in the cool crowd. Now I am, so I feel great.
I'll send you a message, and I'll give you some training. We have all this inside of our free group and stuff like that. It's a central part of the belt. But yeah, we've helped a lot of people become New York Times bestselling authors, and I'm not saying that happens here, but I can show you the methodology. You know how the whole thing works.
Yes, I know how it works.
Happy to show you. Thanks again, sir. I really appreciate you. Have an amazing
Thank you,
day.
brother.
Take care. Have a good night. Bye.
Yeah, you too.